Social media is the mass casualty event because your children are being abused right now. Young teen girls who are suicidal, who have eating disorders, are spending about 5.5 hours on social media, 8.5 hours on the phone every day. And this is not clickbaity because these are lawsuits going on in the state that we're in right now. They are consuming content that is driving them to want to take their own life or hate their own bodies. And those algorithms were invented by real human persons. They wrote into being feeds that don't have a bottom. So what do those inventors think of that girl to create something like that?
You're one of the most disruptive founders I've met in the modern tech space.
I built a whole business to save the 11-year-old version of myself. It's just the best screen time blocker and porn blocker that's ever been invented.
So do you think social media is evil?
Well, it's not for you, it's for them. They have formed you. That's why when you open up your feed, it's as if they read your mind. Your thumb moves without conscious action. And if I can change what you want, then I can either weaken or strengthen your will toward monetizable behavior. The founders love their kids, which is why they don't let them on social media. You squashed the rebellion and you habituated the subjects with Stockholm syndrome. They like being here and they don't want to leave.
I think we have everything it takes. We just need a helping hand from those that are older than us.
The help is not coming. They won't take the bargain.
What makes you say that? You're one of the most disruptive founders I've met in the modern tech space. And I think there are going to be a lot of unhappy other tech founders listening to this conversation now. Before we get into what you've designed, possibly the most innovative app in the last decade, I want us to actually start a little bit broader and speak about the purpose of humans in relation to technology.
Yeah.
And I thought the best place to start would be by reading you this and seeing how you react. This is from Chris, the co-creator. It's 2031. Pornhub traffic crashes after people discover being witnessed slowly by someone who actually cares is more orgasmic than consuming bodies like vending machines with a blue light screen against your face at midnight. Tinder gets replaced by neighborhood dinners where we accidentally fall in love while washing dishes together. Cities build more gardens than parking lots. Wonder is classified as a gateway drug to awakening. We're all addicted to seeing someone's actual personality leak through crooked teeth and tear streaks and that little demon gremlin laugh snort that scares away fear itself. Wrinkles are back in style. Lovers show up to first dates carrying poetry in their back pockets like loose cigarettes. Children learn emotional regulation from grandparents gardening barefoot. Spotify collapses after our shadows start singing to each other again. The suicide rates drop like dead leaves off a tree finally getting watered. And surprise, surprise, the sex got better too.
Ooh.
Do you think that the technology we're surrounded by is aiding our humanity or encroaching on it?
I wonder if it has ever aided. I think that's kind of a separate question that I wrestle with a lot. But man, that's beautiful. I would first say that's all possible. Everything there. I don't think it's going to happen by 2031. But by the time my children are in their teens, I could see it happening. So I do think it's coming.
How old are you for anyone listening or watching?
I'll be 28 soon.
And you've just had your first kid?
Correct. Yeah.
What makes you say we'll have to wait that long?
Because the awakening started. Now, in our generation, the awakening has started. But there's a lot of work to do. I think it will take about 50,000 Elliots and Nicks working as hard as they possibly can for the next 10 years. That might sound like a lot, but when you obviously think about how many people there are and how many people are in our generation, that's not. But you have to have very, very long time preferences, which is a sort of a once in a million type disposition to be able to think in terms of a decade instead of a week, let alone 8 seconds on your phone. To be able to think like, okay, I have a vision for a podcast and I'm going to do this for the next 10 years.
And it gets harder when all the technology we're surrounded by actively inhibits us from thinking in a long-term manner. It's this self-perpetuating spiral where the average memory span of a goldfish, although some scientists debunk this when they nerd out on it, is meant to be 8 seconds, right? And we're now I think we're less than goldfish. Maybe we're 8 seconds and the goldfish is 9.
They're 9. Yeah, well, what's funny is the architects of that technology, for some reason, they think in terms of their own lineage. Jeff Bezos has a bunker. Mark Zuckerberg's got a bunker. Why do these people have bunkers and giant clocks and family offices and all these things? And you and I are operating and trained to operate on the longest time horizon we have is the Affirm payments for our Chipotle, because we did a layaway on a Chipotle bowl. Like, that's the amortization we think about. These people are thinking dynastically, and we are the generation that will make it happen. It's not millennials, and it's not Gen Alpha, certainly not Gen Beta. Sorry, they're cooked. There will be some rising stars in both of those, but I think the highest distribution is going to be our generation. But we've got about a decade of work to put in, I think. And it's probably closer to about 15 years. I mean, you have several years of skill building to even be able to do a podcast effectively. Anybody who's seen your recent meteoric rise was actually like, well, thousands and thousands of hours to get to a point where you could start something and be successful at it. So overnight success after 5 or 10 years.
If we hone in on this disparity between the normal population and the tech founders who seem to be this new upper class.
Yeah.
I only think that gap's going to increase going forwards. The middle class, in my opinion, is going to be eliminated. And there are going to be the peasants at the bottom who don't have access to the AI, the development around it. And there's going to be the people that develop the thing. There's going to be this increasing difference between consumers and producers.
Yeah.
What's been the most shocking thing for you in the tech space to discover tech founders do?
Lie. Which shouldn't be surprising because everybody does, but like they monetize that lie, I think, more effectively than the vast majority of capitalists. I'd say it's the deception of the raises, the pre-seed, seed, Series A, Series B. Like, it is a slightly less sophisticated version of a crypto rug pull.
What do you mean?
Were you active in the crypto space at all?
Yeah, I bought Doge and I made about 20 cents from my investment by selling it 3 hours later after the Elon Musk tweet died off.
Okay. What year was that?
Must have been 2021, I think.
Okay. I put in some good hours in the crypto world, and the pump and dump schemes were rampant because the barrier to making a coin was low. And it got progressively lower. And then, like all business, you realize after the product is even barely viable that really what you're doing is you're running marketing. That's true for literally any company that you're running. Nobody knows who you are. Nobody knows what you're doing. You could have the greatest thing in the world and it doesn't matter. And so it was just an arms race of marketing after the coin was created. And then the goal was, if you were the liquidity provider, you would then just sell as soon as you 100x, 1000x, whatever it was, by getting a couple thousand other people to buy in. And I see Silicon Valley as basically doing the same thing, just with private equity, venture capitalists, institutional investors, where the tech that's being created is utterly banal. It's the vast majority of the time, it's a wrapper of a wrapper or a variation of something that nobody even really needed in the first place. And especially now in the last couple of years, as AI has ascended, if you just append your company with AI, we are the blah, blah, blah for blah, 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 and we have AI, you can get that institutional investment. And the point, in my opinion, of the progressive rounds is to just be exit liquidity for the preceding round. And then the founders can say, well, we raised 25 million and so on and so forth. We really, without delivering much of anything, and a lot of these go up in smoke. So yeah, I would say not the microdosing LSD or debauchery in Silicon Valley. That's not what was most surprising. It was realizing that I was competing against just a bunch of Jordan Belforts, basically.
The thing that concerns me about what you're saying is we're removing ourselves from those closest to us, and we're trying to profit off of those across the other side of the world, which sounds pretty cool. this global village. We've got access to the entire planet. The world is smaller than ever because you can jump on a plane and see me within an hour when you're across the country. That's cool. But then when you look at the consequences, the thing that I've noticed just casually scrolling social media and being a 21-year-old is the more technology improves and the more access we get to people far away, the further the connection is from our intuition and our morality to the impact of it. So if I actually break that down for someone listening, if I order a dress for my girlfriend on Shein, I'm actually getting a young kid in China to go through the production of that. And I'm making use of modern day slave labor. And it doesn't have to be Shein, it could be any company. That seems fine to me because all I've been hit with is the sexy marketing of this product on social media. And it's been westernized and manipulated in a way to appeal to me trying to buy a gift for my girlfriend. What I don't see is the actual impact of that order and everything that goes into placing it and delivering it. And I think the same is true on a bigger scale for these tech companies making social media platforms that we live on. Can you tell me, I think this helps illustrate this point greatly. What is a Dunbar circle?
Yeah, it's a principle of anthropology that I believe was first observed in animals, and it's the concentric circles of what an organism can and does care about, typically mammals, monkeys, and then it was discovered that it maps on quite directly to humans. So I believe it starts with about 5. And this is your core group of people that you can and should care about. These are your trusted confidants, perhaps immediate family members. And then I think the next one is 15, and it goes out to about 150. And then after that, you've left the known world. That's everybody and nobody at the same time. And I think that what's really taken place as a result of social media is the inversion of these Dunbar numbers, where the people who we have most access to their interior lives are people we've never met. And the people who are closest to us, if we still have them in our lives, which in our generation is actually a rarity now, we don't really know what's going on in their hearts and in their minds, which is why every couple of weeks you'll see on Twitter a tragic story of, I didn't even know my friend was depressed and they took their own life. So we've had a complete inversion of that. And on the subject of leverage, which I believe is the proper way to conceptualize what you were talking about with what technology does and the ability to buy a dress, but you don't see the effects of buying the dresses. Technology compresses the distance between your will and the effects of your will. So that gets compressed, but it separates your intimacy with the effects of the will. That gets extended. And so an example would be the progression of a weapon from sword fighting. When I impale you, I see the life leave your eyes. And I either by the command of my king or country, or because you and I were going to settle something that we've been stewing over for weeks or months or decades, I ended it by taking your life. And then that distance grew across the battlefield with a gun and a cannon. And now you can have somebody in a VR headset lay waste to thousands, or at the push of a button, vaporize an entire city. And so distance from will to effects compressed, distance from our connection to the effects magnified. I think that really, really messes with us. And I think it should, and I think we should pay attention to why that messes with us. You should ask questions. Why is it that I can Uber Eats a fruit that doesn't even grow here, and it'll show up at my doorstep? When that novelty wears off, like what apparatus had to be constructed? And I submit that our generation is the one that's starting to ask the question, and I'm trying to direct the attention of people to say, if you open up your door and you go down the street and you talk to people, or you turn on the TV and you're unhappy with the world that you're living in, I submit there might be a connection between the apparatus that can deliver an out-of-season fruit to your front door in 38 minutes and the hell that you're living through.
Can you go even further on that point for me, for anyone that's watching and they're like, yeah, this is cool, this is kind of scary, I'm excited by this conversation so far, but it's a little bit abstract. If we're looking here at the purpose of a human being, what makes us happy, what makes us flourish, if someone's listening to this purely selfishly, why should they care about these problems you're saying tech cause?
Yeah, well, I would lean into the selfishness. I think it's actually a self-esteem problem that we haven't looked much further into this. Like, think about what type of creature these tech founders must think that you and I are. What do they, let's be more specific, and this is not clickbaity because these are lawsuits going on in the state that we're in right now, right? The young teen girls who are suicidal, who have eating disorders, are spending hours of their life. I would say that the stats seem to indicate more than half of their waking day, so not the 8 hours that you're asleep, but of the time remaining, about 5.5 hours on social media, 8.5 hours on the phone every day. So maybe slightly less, 40%. They are consuming content that is driving them to want to take their own life or hate their own bodies. And those algorithms were invented by real human persons. And those inventors, of which there are numerous, created features. They wrote into being lines of code for likes and comments and reposts and feeds that don't have a bottom. So what do those inventors think of that girl to create something like that? And then what do we as a society, her parents, her friends, her teachers, the small community, if there isn't even such a thing left, which we're kind of arguing isn't, doing or not doing to protect her against that? It's like, what do we think of ourselves? Why are we tolerating this? There is a direct connection between the people who architect how we interact with the world and what they think you are, what they think you're for. And the thing is we've just done no audit for ourselves. Like, well, what am I for? What are my preferences? What do I want? Why don't I like myself? Is it because I'm not likable? Am I being compelled to think about myself in a certain way? I think one element of this, going back to the Dunbar number, we are not made to be compared against infinity. And we are functionally being compared against infinity by way of social media. And the problem with that is if the denominator approaches infinity, or 8 billion, which we can't distinguish between, when really the denominator capped at 150, psychosocially, biologically, hormonally, then really what happens is that value mathematically approaches zero. You are 1 over what should be 150. This is your comparison. This is your known world. That denominator approached billions. So you trend to zero. You trend toward annihilation.
All you have to do is look at the word feed. Everyone relies on their feed every day for all their information. Well,
I hadn't thought about that.
What does feed signal? Are you choosing that?
We're just in a trough. Our heads are just like...
You can lead a horse to water, and you can lead a teenage girl to social media. The difference is the water's good for the horse, and it's actually part of what it needs to biologically function. The girl that's being led and examined by different products using her eyes to determine what she's looking at, what makes her insecure every time she scrolls, that's not good for her. She's going to be fed the wrong kind of food. And it's weird how we don't even break these things down. I'm pretty sure a flourishing life isn't caused by constantly being fed by people who don't have your best interests at heart.
Well, they also can't because they don't know you. So if we agree that like knowledge, relationship is the predicate for knowing what's good for somebody, which is like what the American Revolution was fought over. The idea of, hey, don't take some of my stuff because you don't know who I am. You don't know how I labored for it. You don't know what I'm sacrificing for. It took me a long time to understand the taxation without representation. It was because they were rebelling against a lack of relationship with an expectation of payment. And so the same sort of thing is happening with social media is I'm going to attempt to feed you and provide for you, and I don't know you. And they claim to know based on habits, which, by the way, to keep going down the rabbit hole a little bit further, if I raise you in a casino, it's really unfair to then later say, well, I know Elliot's favorite game is blackjack. Like, well, maybe you wouldn't have even played if you weren't raised in a casino. Perhaps you wouldn't have purchased based on these ads. Maybe you wouldn't have been drawn to this area of the world if we didn't raise you in the casino. And so this idea that like, well, they know us better than we know ourselves. They formed us to behave in a way that was predictable so that that could be monetized. It's actually a complete feedback loop. It's not just we are actual free agents and using really clever math, they can predict your next move and then give you the ad for the thing that you might want. They have formed you. That's why when you open up your feed, it's as if they read your mind. So I've been a magician for 21 years. I can give you the illusion of choice. When I spread out the deck in front of you and I say, pick a card. I've been doing this for 21 years. I know which card you're going to pick because I forced you to. And those are the most amazing magic tricks. How did he know? I had free choice. I just picked it out and he said 8 of hearts. Boom, there it is. How did he know?
Can you tell me more about how that illusion of choice actually manifests with users of social media?
Well, if we define choice as could have done otherwise, that doesn't really allow for compulsive behavior. Compulsive behavior implies that you couldn't have done otherwise. And so I think the existence of social media blockers, of porn blockers, of in-person, the move toward more like in-person things like what you read at the beginning here, indicates that there's a disparity between what we long for and what we do. So there isn't a choice if people are trading their hard-earned dollars for an app blocker or a porn blocker or an in-person experience. They're saying, I want to trade value for value. And what I really hate is that I spend all day on my phone and how that makes me feel. Then are you free?
The thing that comes to mind for me is Book 7, Plato's Republic. He speaks about this famous allegory of the cave.
I'm just kidding. I didn't know it was that part of the book. Is that where the cave is? Book 7?
And for anyone that hasn't heard of this kind of bro-y philosophy concept that I know because it's spoken about by all the big bicep meatheads.
Ironically.
Plato speaks about this idea of people who have lived and grown up in a cave their whole life.
Yeah.
And to them, the known universe is existent within that cave.
Yeah.
That's it. anything they see in that cave, even the shadows from people walking on past outside, it has to have stemmed from something like the fire within that cave or some weird rock formation. When actually what that cave represents is the limitations of our known knowledge, what we can perceive as humans. And for Plato, it's a bit more abstract, but to take this in a smaller level down to the social media world, I think Gen Z are trapped in a cave at the moment caused by social media. And to them, all of their choices, all the agency they seem to have, the way they can execute on their will, it all seems informed by their own choices, but that's completely wrong. We have had our will perverted by people who are profiting off of making us make worse decisions. Our will is meant to serve us. If we're speaking about evolution here and we don't believe in God, or if we do, the point of the will would be to guide us towards a better life, but it doesn't. Why is that the case? If we're actually free, why do we keep on making these choices that make us unhappier?
It's a great question. I mean, Saint Paul, I think, pretty sure it's Saint Paul, says, why do I do what I do not want to do? I do what I hate. Why? 2,000 years ago, he's asking this question. Gen Z is the last generation that wasn't born in the cave. That's why I have much less hope for Gen Alpha. Like, I did go outside and play and ride on the bike. I remember laying under the tree in my childhood yard growing up and just staring at the sky and just thinking about stuff. I didn't get a phone in 4th grade. Gen Alpha did. I didn't see porn at 7 years old. Gen Alpha is. So like we were led into the cave and then we sat down and we started watching all the shadow puppets. And the vast majority of us aren't going to leave. Everybody before us has also been led into the cave, including the boomers and the greatest gen. This does not discriminate. The shadow puppetry is phenomenal. Look at anybody over the age of 50, and they're also looking at TikTok. They're also giggling toothlessly at their phone. They also have high screen times. It didn't discriminate. But for some reason, Gen Z is in this Goldilocks zone of like perfect abuse and neglect and nostalgia that I think we're going to be the ones to kind of break the chains and walk out of the cave. I'm hopeful. So the will is mutable, and it doesn't seem like you can manipulate it or change the will. And it sort of seems binary to us. We're like, well, I have a will, so I can use it and I can do free things. And that's just not true. Like you can, if that were the case, then there wouldn't be such a thing as addiction or like a crack baby where they are predisposed to an addiction because of the environment that they were raised in, because of the drugs that were already in their system. We also know you don't have to go to extremes. You could just talk about habit, plain old discipline. When you start doing a thing, you hate it. It sucks. I don't want to do the thing that's good for me. But you do it enough times that you start to tolerate doing it. And eventually you delight in doing the thing that you knew was good. You, through application of the will, adjusted, not your will, you adjusted your appetites. And so the will and what you want are actually in a dance. And if I can change what you want, then I can either weaken or strengthen your will toward the thing that's best for you. And I think pornography is a really good example of this. Going back to the idea of like the Dunbar's numbers, what marriage can survive that infinity that is pornography? What dating relationship can survive? Don't talk about morality for a second. Just talk math. There is no person alive that can outcompete the infinity of pornography. And so if what you're optimizing for is hypergamy or like the maximal sexual marketplace value in the face of infinity, you will lose. So there's some things that we shouldn't be exposed to because it will affect our appetite. It will weaken our wills. And then it will destroy the thing that we know, that we rationally understand is actually the best. I would find it very hard to find somebody who would say that pornography is superior to monogamous marital intimacy. The research bears this out. Married couples report much higher sexual satisfaction than even single people who have multiple partners. That wasn't a question about morality. It wasn't a question about the Bible. It was subjective, personal, sexual satisfaction. Why would consuming more pornography increase the rates of divorce? So you can blow it all up if you want. And this, I think, begs the question of freedom versus liberty. Let's say you were a concert pianist. You were naturally talented at playing the piano. You are absolutely capable of taking your hands and putting them in a meat grinder if you want to. You could have done otherwise, and if you do it, you're free to do so. And what you have lost is the capacity to play the piano, to manifest your unique personal talent. And for some reason, modernity or the West or the academics have said that the highest good is just how high can we push the number of actions that we could take? Can we perform surgeries on ourselves? Can we swap people into different roles? Can everybody do anything? What if everybody did anything? Then we'd be maximally free. And what happens is the talents that you have, which, to bridge the gap here with the analogy, the characteristics of what make you a human person become diminished. So now you're actually less free. You're less free to be what you are. And I think these are the two warring ideologies that are actually manifesting through technology, through politics, is, well, I want to do anything and everything. And the other side says, I want to be not just able, but supported in my effort to do the thing that makes me most of what I am.
In the space of 5 years, I've had the chance to meet Joe Rogan in his podcast studio. I've gone from being a fanboy of Chris Williamson to hanging out with him for dinner and in his new podcast studio. I built up the Trigonometry podcast from 300,000 subscribers to 1 million, going on multiple tours to America with them. It's pretty surreal looking back at all the knowledge I've been fortunate enough to have imparted on myself, and it feels wrong to just gatekeep that for myself. But luckily for you, whether you're an aspiring podcaster who's done 0 episodes or someone who's done hundreds and can't quite seem to crack the code to make it work, I've got something just for you. I've gone into a partnership with my best mate and fellow podcaster Chris Griffin to create Pod Pro, the best podcast school in the world. Since meeting last year in Austin through a mutual friend, we've slept in cars together, we've built productions in LA warehouses, and we've climbed mountains and placed a full cinema production on top of it. The mentorship includes live weekly calls with both Chris and myself, access to our team for direct client success meetings, as well as different modules we've put together with the actual frameworks we use for everything in the podcast space. This is designed to take you from A to Z and for you to have a comprehensive understanding of it all. I genuinely can't imagine a better podcast offer in the world from any other podcasters in the space. And that might sound egotistical, but I don't think there's someone who's actively walking the walk while still being aware of every part of the process, being in the trenches at a level as high as Chris and I. So to apply, go to thepodpro.com/Elliot or click the link in the description, put in your details, and my team will be in touch. That's thepodpro.com/Elliot. There's this common debate online, ironically enough, about whether the internet is real. And you'll hear boomers all the time going, well, it's not actually real life, so it shouldn't damage you. And if it does, by extension, it's your fault, it's your problem, because you've got a problem that's psychosomatic. It's a problem with something that doesn't exist. And that makes sense. If the internet isn't real life, that actually does make sense. It's kind of just your problem and deal with it, bro. So a few questions get asked following up from that. The first being, is the internet actually real?
Mm.
And from that, whether it is or isn't, is ultimate reality what we should be striving for? Is it the extension of our own natural spirit? Like what is the thing that we should be looking for?
I think the boomer intuition is directionally correct. And they came into the cave much later. So I think they're much more confused when they see us spending all this time in the cave. And they're just like, what are you talking about? Just leave. Yeah, it's obviously puppets. Stop watching the puppet show. But this is probably where the analogy breaks down. The allegory of the cave breaks down. Because shadows and ghosts can't hold anything, but the internet is. So it's very short-sighted to say, well, it's just numbers on the screen. It's just zeros and ones, because if I took your bank account and made it all zeros, your life would change. If I deleted all the photos in your camera roll, there would be a loss. So there is something very real about technology and about the internet. And that's where I vehemently disagree with the LARP of, well, just go out into nature. You just get rid of your phone. It's a LARP. It's fake. It's not, you will never see that happen in the next at least 15 years, but I think probably for the foreseeable future. We're not dispensing with technology. But the idea of reality as the top of the hierarchy, I think is an unavoidable longing in everybody. And you see it pop up on the internet. You have the cottagecore, you have the homesteading, you have the I'm making sourdough bread now. I bought a tomato plant. I got a cow. I learned how to make cheese. Like, people want to use these things to do stuff that directly affects them and their family. They, like, pay attention to that. Yeah, yes, keep going. Why? And so, like, if you look at a chair, we can use our reason. We can understand that there's a purpose of the chair. And this is where you're going to have, again, that ideological difference. Some people will say, it's not a chair. It's a collection of atoms, and it's whatever you want it to be. And then the rest of us are going to look at that chair and say it's for sitting, and here's how you do it. And so first, you have to believe that reality exists. Crazy that we have to get to that point. Reality exists. You can know it. So you can't be a complete agnostic. And it's internally consistent. These are just Aristotle's laws of logic. And I challenge anybody to disagree with them without using them. And by internally consistent, what I mean is that a thing is what it is. It means something to be a thing, and you can know what that thing is. If you disagree with any of those things, first of all, you're going to, like I said, use those rules to try to disprove the premise, and we can't have a conversation. But once you accept those things, then you get support for the idea that reality is one of the highest ideals. And what's awesome about that is then you get a definition of evil. Because evil doesn't have substance. It's a privation of being. It's a perversion of being. So there is, and then there's less. That's why I can say that mutilating your body is evil. Because I know that there is a person, I know what that form is, and I know what it means to not be. And so moving from what you are to not that is evil.
So do you think social media is evil?
I think it's a separate question of, can tools be moral or immoral? Can tools be good or evil? And I think that's a question of specificity. So tools exist, technology, very synonymous with tools, but technology exists on a spectrum of more to less specific. And so what that looks like is a hammer has many uses. A medieval torture rack has one use. And so without making 100 meaningless and distracted arguments, you can just look at that gradient alone and say that there are some tools whose purpose is to bring about evil. And therefore that tool is evil. And I think the less specific it becomes, the harder it is to ascribe that sort of thing. In computer science world, there's a phrase, the purpose of a system is what it does. In the Holy Bible, there's a phrase, you will know them by their fruits. If we're just looking at that on the whole, yeah, social media is very evil. And the fact that you can get some good out of a tool does not mean that it is an amoral, a morally neutral thing. In fact, that's the definition of dangerous. Right? If you have a pet leopard and it might kill you in your sleep, you don't have that when you have children. And most people in your life would be like, hey man, get rid of the leopard. This is why we don't send children to school with handguns. Well, we do in America, but not in England. It's a joke.
Just knives in England.
Just knives.
Zombie knives.
Because that's a massive risk. You have an incontinent, poorly formed, immature, unwise, imprudent, hormonal, unintelligent child, and we gave them social media. And I think that reflects poorly on every adult in their lives.
Well, I guess the pushback would be, look, I hear you, social media is clearly not giving us good results in terms of our happiness, in terms of our flourishing, whatever else, in terms of our development even. But first of all, these tech founders, they're optimizing for profits. Sure, they're living in a capitalist society, but they weren't trying to poison people. This was just the kind of end result of something unintentionally. And the second thing would be, okay, maybe it's evil in some ways, but like it doesn't have to be that way. If we make sufficient tweaks, then social media can go back to maybe not being algorithmic, as in people have their content selected for them based on what the algorithm thinks they would want. Rather, we return to a chronological timeline-based feed where it's in order of posting. And that's what it used to be before 2016. So for any Gen Alphas that might be listening, there was a time where you could scroll down your feed and it would be in order of recency from your friends. So it wouldn't be what was most engaging. It would be Bob's coffee that he had this morning.
Right.
And I remember that time I was out of the cave for that period of time of my life when I was about 8 or 9 and first got Instagram. And it was a lot calmer. Memes that got sent around that were engaging, they were intentionally sent to you by a friend close to you, which is a pretty cool thing. If you're looking at the Dunbar circles there,
right,
that's nicer. That's less dangerous because that friend knows you in reality. So someone pushing back here might say, you know, there is a different world where social media is shaped in another way, and that's not evil. Plus, the tech founders, if we just pitch it to them the right way, they might be happy with that. What say you to those pushbacks?
I never ascribe to ignorance what is more explicable by malice, which is the exact inverse that most people look at things. Aristotle says that whenever the pursuit of money eclipses the pursuit of the art or the craft, you will pervert the craft. And so I think it's wrong, whomever says that they're trying their best or that that's not their intention. I don't care, and they're wrong. Because you know what you're making. You're a drug manufacturer, and it's a recreational drug manufacturer. This is not you're overdosing on Tylenol. Nobody needs it, and everyone's overdosing on it. So here's a thought experiment. Take away their profits, would they still do it? Because we have nonprofits for a reason, and not-for-profits, which, there's a distinction here. But for example, churches who go out and feed the homeless do this not for profit. And if the money dried up, they would still keep doing what they're doing. If you stop the advertising money going into Meta, those algorithms immediately change for what they're optimizing for. Because what they're optimizing for is not just time on device, but also predictable behavior, malleable behavior, monetizable behavior. So yeah, it's evil. It's not for you, it's for them. And love, by definition, is willing, with your will, willing the good of the other. So they don't love you. Actually, they hate you. The founders love their kids, which is why they don't let them on social media.
Yeah, I think we should change this name of the For You page on TikTok to the For Them page.
Ooh.
Because it is for them. It's for the people running these apps that have programmed into the software addiction, compulsion, and misery. I see it time and time again. I've grown up amongst friends who have wanted to take their own lives as a result of what they've been exposed to on social media. I'm sure there'll be the odd saint that comes along and tells them what to do to unfuck their life, but that's an exception to the rule. The rule is it's designed to make you insecure. It's designed to profit off of your misery, because we have our negativity bias as human beings that skews us towards paying more attention to the negative rather than the positive. And as a result, negativity, suffering, misery, fear, deprivation is way more monetizable.
Well, the proof in that is when the 24-hour news cycle came on the scene, I want to say it was in the 80s. Because prior to that, and I remember my parents telling me about this, in the evening, the national anthem would play and the TV would stop. There wasn't anything on. There were 3 channels. And now we have the 24-hour news cycle. And what's so fascinating about that is it the case that only evil things happen in this world that are of note? Or is it the case that evil, terrible things have the highest return on ad spend? And so what became the 24-hour news cycle is just catastrophe. And that's also why social media is far superior to even the 24-hour news cycle in terms of capturing attention, is because it has greater degrees of novelty. So you can have every stimuli contained in that feed, not just the catastrophe, but also the sexuality and the humor.
Can you give me examples?
Yeah, well, in the same 5 minutes of scrolling, I bet you if I pulled out my phone right now and we started scrolling, I would see a cultural critique, probably about the Odyssey. I would see something political. I would see something heinous, somebody getting beat up, murdered, being thrown off of a bridge. Thankfully, my algorithm is not like this anymore, but maybe in high school you would have seen a half-naked woman, all within the span of a few moments. That beats the casino any day. And it has no bottom. You could just stay there. And we do.
One of the most shocking things I ever found out was that advertisers intentionally will advertise after the most horrible graphic parts in a movie, in a TV series, on a YouTube video, because that's when people are most primed to buy. It's when they feel fear. You're going to get shown an advert, and notice this, anyone that's watching or listening, next time you're consuming a media product, when the scary part comes in, you've got your adrenaline in your nervous system, you're primed, bam, advert.
A couple years, maybe 5 or 10 years into doing magic, I also got really into hypnosis, and I learned how to do it, and I performed it for about a year at parties, and I would do a lot of street performances as well. So I would try to do what's called non-trance hypnosis. So the kind that you and I are maybe more colloquially familiar with is you lay down, I talk to you for a couple minutes, you're in a trance, and then I give you a suggestion and you perform behaviors. Non-trance hypnosis is I could walk up to somebody on the street, and within about 30 seconds, with their friends around them, they don't know their name. And the mechanism of hypnosis was often a pattern interrupt followed by a powerful suggestion. And so that's where the handshake induction, where you yank on their arm and then immediately you say sleep. Like, the reason that works is because when they went for the handshake, they had this inertia for a known behavior, which was then interrupted and then met with a new suggestion that was more powerful. And then they acted on it almost against their own will. So yes, it is a constant cycle of hypnosis induction solely with the purpose of capitalization.
Take that into the social media realm for me.
Yeah. So if you're scrolling and you see the grotesque video, you are now suggestible and you're hit with the ad. And maybe not you, maybe not the person watching this right this second, but on the whole, they know statistically that's when the purchases are most likely to happen. And so the merger of media buying, which is another way of saying purchasing ad real estate, and the algorithm is best when that is timed appropriately. So you can remain in a state of mass hypnosis.
What else has hypnosis taught you about how social media exploits humans?
The experience of time vanishing, right? An hour-long hypnotherapy session will feel like moments, or it will feel like time didn't even pass. You laid down, the hypnotherapist counted backward from 30, and this is maybe for, we're trying to quit smoking or whatever. And then when they count down again and you wake up, you're like, wow, it was amazing. How long was I out? It must have been 5 minutes. And they're like, no, it was an hour and 40-minute session. Like, how do you think we get screen times pushing 5 to 15 hours a day if you weren't in that same liminal state, which you are? We are. And it's hypnotic in the sense that, like, your thumb moves without conscious action to perform a task, and minutes go by. It doesn't have to be hours. It could just be minutes. I went on Instagram to like respond to this customer, and I'm scrolling and I didn't mean to. Like, this is balking like a chicken. This is forgetting your name in the middle of the street. This is mass hypnosis. And the trick is like, just give me your wallet. Just pull the money out. Yeah, just slide it over here. It's fine. Look, there's a cat playing a piano. Oh, just let me get that money. Sorry about the beheading video. Give me a little bit more money.
Yeah, I find it every single time I open my phone, without fail, I go to an app. And you know what? It's not when I open my phone. It's when I go to a social media app.
Yeah.
I go to do a task. I go to reply to someone who's a prospective client or a friend. And I forget why I opened that app within 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I'll be on stories. I'll be on my feed. I'll be on my own page checking out the analytics on my post. Every time. And it's like, it's fucking terrifying.
Yeah. And it also, there's a hit to your self-esteem to not have the agency that you want. Like, it actually makes you feel bad about yourself to feel so fractured and distractible. I said this the other day that I think women, as a result of social media, I think they compare and they despair, and men, I think they get disoriented and distracted. And it's a perfectly curated attack on both. Like, let's keep the testosterone, the drive, let's keep the builders gooning and distracted. And let's keep the women in shame and self-hatred and internal comparison. And as long as that money keeps flowing, which it does, you win. And it's a perfect feedback loop too, because you've done two things. You've squashed the rebellion and you've habituated the subjects, the imprisoned, with Stockholm syndrome. Like, they like being here and they don't want to leave. And this is something we've started to discover with refunds with Shift, is I think people actually get mad because Shift like teleports you out of the cave instantaneously, and they're like, "Whoa, no, put me back in."
Well, why don't you tell people listening who don't know what Shift is, what it is?
It's just the best screen time blocker and porn blocker that's ever been invented. That's the whole thing. Just the best one.
How's it work?
You want to show? You want
Let's do
to
it.
do a demo?
Okay. I want to. So before we get into the Shift tutorial here of what it actually does,
Yeah,
and we showcase it, what was the call like with me when I used Shift for the first time?
it reminded me when I did street performing magic. Like, when I got the card and they're like, "That's my card." Like, that's the experience that I want people to have when they use this. They click Shift and the apps vanish. And then, to continue the magic analogy, like, you go home and you're like, how did they do? There's got to be a way around it. There's got to be a way around it. And then when you finally realize, like, oh, this is the real one, there is no way around it. We can get into the competitors later. But I think that's what really shocks people, is not that, like, the first thing happens, that my distracting apps are blocked, but then, wait, you mean like I can't just turn it off? Like, I have to wait for the schedule to run out, or I have to wait for the timer to run out or something? It's like, yeah, it's the real one.
Yeah, I think the cool thing about my podcast is the amazing audience I've accrued through debates and honest conversation is that they smell bullshit from a mile away. And a few of them right now will be going, well, you're just doing this podcast because they're your sponsor.
Yeah.
And I just say to people who have that doubt now very casually, in the last 2 weeks, I'm looking at my screen now, I've saved 6 days and 9 hours using Shift in my life. So my longest session is 15 hours and 43 minutes.
And have you tried the screen time thing? Have you tried other apps? And was this, like, actually different?
Well, the big thing for me with Shift compared to other competitors that we can talk about that maybe aren't as honest as they let on is, and this follows on perfectly from the conversation, we think we know what's best for us when we've been guided into this cave and relentlessly told by tech developers, by software companies, by social media platforms, no, you actually do have freedom, you do have choice, and you have the capacity to make the best choices.
Yeah.
Because you're completely free. So I would try it. And for me, it was even worse because I'm a self-development junkie that thinks he has agency over absolutely everything in his life times 10. So I try screen time and I just press remind me in 15 minutes. I'd try turning off my Face ID and then I just put in my 6-digit code instead. And I tried block site for YouTube whilst I was working in the day and I just unblock it. And I think what's really cool to ask you about is why you chose to make Shift so bad for a customer experience, really, on paper.
Yeah, because I actually love the person. I know what a person is, and I have love for that, which means I'm trying to make a product that serves what they are. And that means I won't build this a certain way. So if you and I both agree, I don't want to spend my evenings and my mornings scrolling on social media. That when I'm trying to go to sleep and the moment I wake up, I don't need the feed. And we both agree on that. And you gave me money and then I let you turn it off. First of all, why did you give me money? What purpose did I serve? And second of all, I just abandoned you in your time of need because we both agreed that this was good. And because you were getting a blocker, you self-admittedly said, I have less agency than I would like to have. If it weren't compulsive behavior, then you would just press the little button on the side of your phone. But we all agree that we have diminished freedom. We have diminished agency. That's why Apple put that in the settings. Now, they didn't try too hard, but they put it in the settings. This is where all of these companies came from, is there was just an understanding that compulsive behavior needed assistance. And nobody said, I'm going to love the customer enough to protect them from them in 6 hours. We're the only ones who, once you go, well, can I have it back? Like, no, there's no way. You set it for this long. Now you can't scroll. Go figure out the rest of your life. Congrats. Now you're actually free.
There'll be a lot of people listening to you talk about Shift, an app designed to help improve people's lives and to rid them of distractions. And they'll be angry. They won't like you right now.
Yeah.
Why do you think people get so pissed?
You saw the same thing happen with Ozempic. There was like a backlash against the people who used it by the people who didn't need it. They're like, just use discipline. Why are you taking a drug? Put the fork down. And I think there's truth to the idea of developing virtue. I'll be the first to recommend that everybody develop as much virtue as they possibly can. I just also think that we need to have a level of humility to recognize when the cards are stacked against us. If the last 80 years of nutritional science and agricultural industry was exactly what it was 80 years ago, I'd probably be in the camp that says, don't use GLP-1s, don't use Ozempic, put the fork down. But the data shows that people ate more calories 60 to 80 years ago. They ate more white sugar. They ate more fat. And we're like 25% less body fat than we are today on average. So something changed. I think it's okay to have some grace and say, if this is you, if you've tried everything, and this is the thing that's working and getting you to a point where you're healthier, use the tool and cultivate the virtue. But if you think everybody's going to David Goggins their way from obesity to a six-pack, and that they're a terrible person if they don't do it that way, I think you're both delusional and you lack a lot of charity. I think the same thing's true with screen time. Just put the phone down. Okay, well, you, I think, rightly pushed back on something that I said, which was, we're carrying this addictive substance around with us all the time. I gave cocaine as an analogy. And then the challenge from big tech is carry this with you, but don't use it. And I think you took it up a level. I think you said something more accurate, which was, do you remember what you said?
Yeah, I definitely disagree with you on this point that we're walking around carrying cocaine in our pockets at all times because of social media. I actually think that it's one step further, which is we're walking around with a cocaine addiction that we're trying to get rid of, with cocaine in our pockets that we have to snort to get on the bus, that we have to snort to open up our maps, that we have to snort to stay in contact with our employers, with our friends, with our family.
Yeah.
That we have to snort to get on a plane, to get on a train.
Yeah.
And then we've got a barrage of people saying, but you need to get over your cocaine addiction and you need to will your way through it. Good luck.
I'd like to see their screen times, all the keyboard warriors. And that's what it is. You know, it's very cheap and easy to make a comment online about how to live your life and the ways to get virtue and what tools people should or shouldn't use in order to get there. I think the surprise and shock that people have with Shift compared to the alternatives is when they use it and they can't go back on it. I'd say 90%, actually the numbers bear this out, 92% of our users, of people who swipe their credit card and buy, go, whoa. And 8% go, I didn't think it was going to work, give me my money back. Because they say like, well, I want it. One of the things we don't let the users do is pick which apps they consider distracting. Opal, Brick, Block, Bloom, all these other companies. During the setup process, they say, well, select which apps you want to have blocked during your sessions. We don't do that. And I just figured out a good way to explain why, because I was getting so much hate for this from the 8%. Like, well, I want Snapchat, or I don't have a problem with YouTube. And I realized it would be like, if this happens a lot, especially in like guys' circles where they get to like mid-30s and one of the guys in the friend group says, you know what, I'm not drinking anymore. It's hurting my recovery in the gym. It's kind of hurting my marriage. I just don't like how I feel the next morning. That's it. I'm done. I'm done drinking. And his friends might be like, yeah, man, that's great. Like, we really support you. And then if he goes, well, I mean, I still have a couple beers here and there. Like, I don't have a problem with beer. It's just the hard alcohol that I'm not. You would immediately recognize that this person isn't serious. Because the problem wasn't the kind of alcohol. It was the category. And so how long will it take for the guy who swore off alcohol but kept beer because he, quote, didn't have a problem with it? How many hard days at work? How many arguments with the wife? How many whatevers is it going to take for him to leverage beer in the exact same way that he did hard alcohol? There was a period of time, there was a golden era of flying on airplanes when we didn't have Wi-Fi. I don't know if you've ever seen this back in the day, maybe about 5 years ago, 7 years ago. Before Wi-Fi on airplanes, people would just look through their photos on their phone because they were so bored. They wanted a visual stimulation to swipe through. You're telling me that you're going to keep YouTube, and when you get bored, you're not going to go to YouTube? I love you too much to let you do that. I know how this works. It all goes away when you shift. You're welcome.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite quotes of all time is the classic from Blaise Pascal. It says, all of man's problems stem from an inability to sit in his room by himself. Ooh. And Blaise Pascal was born 400 years ago.
Yeah. I see life as one long race. That wasn't my imagery, St. Paul. That's his. You could also look at it as a test. And I think we won't be judged on how many times did you resist watching pornography? How many times did you take the cold shower? Personally, I don't think that's what we will be judged on. I think what you judge a person on is what do they want? And did they get it? And so if you want to be a good person, that looks like a set of behaviors. And if you achieved that, I think you have succeeded. If you spend your whole life saying, well, I want to not watch porn, and you don't have the humility to recognize that you need a porn blocker, and you spend your whole life relapsing and falling, I don't think you get to say, well, I really didn't want to. I think you have to rig the game in your favor, to use a cheap phrase, so that your recognition of the good aligns with the outcome. And you have to have the humility to bridge that gap and recognize you are not all powerful. We have now, thanks to what big tech did and the lack of protection and provision that we had from the people in our life who are responsible for us, we have in our minds and in our hearts the ability to want things that are atrocious. I will not be replicating that with my children. I will make sure that I do my utmost to protect them from the awareness of things that would subvert them from doing what is good, from wanting what is good. I don't need my daughter to be exposed to pornography or drugs or crime or homelessness. I will protect her to the best of my ability from those things. And I think she will be measured by the purity of her heart and her desires and how much she makes that a reality and chooses that on a daily basis. Why would I ever want to damage her ability to choose those things by exposing her to that corruption? Like, that's what Shift is doing. I got you. I'm going to protect you. Nobody else did.
I had a friend that I worked with for a little period of time, and whenever I'd have an interesting conversation with someone and they were present, every single time something profound came up, they'd go, "Oh, I was just thinking that." And it got to a point where I had to call them out.
Yeah.
And I sat them down because I cared about them.
Yeah.
And I said, if you were thinking something in a conversation, but you didn't say it, I don't give a fuck. It's not impressive.
Yeah.
It doesn't signal intelligence because we all think things.
Yeah.
We're all dreamers. We all want to be a rock star. We want to be an astronaut. We want to be a fucking TikToker when we grow up. But how many people actually do that?
Yeah.
There's a different question of whether we should be aiming for those things, but the dream in and of itself is not impressive. The impulse to do good is not virtuous until you do good. And I don't want us to flog a dead horse here of social media, but growing up, I have to say, I think this stems from our exposure to the online world, where saying things that sound good is worth as much in the online currency as doing things that are good.
People have built multi-million-dollar companies and careers off of it.
Look at the last decade of virtue signaling. We had a phenomenon in the UK of protesters getting down on one knee and saying, "Hands up, don't shoot," to police officers that don't have guns. The world is going crazy, and there are a lot of ambitious people who have brought the political into the personal, who worry about every single issue, who talk about it in brief. They'll do a deep dive for 30 seconds on Israel and Palestine, and they'll bring it up. And they'll say, "You really have to care about this." But they won't ever do anything. And I see the same thing transpiring in the self-development world, where it's talking about productivity instead of being productive. And I guarantee the people who are the most productive, they're not speaking about their cold plunge in the morning. They're just doing it and getting on with the rest of their tasks. Yeah. I'm all for people posting about productivity here and there, giving advice. That's fine. But it's gone to another level where these things miss the point, and actually we miss the wood from the trees a little bit. And I think it's the same And it was the same for me with porn, with social media. I would kind of look at everyone else and I'd go, no, I'm not like them. I can will my way through this because all of these other gremlins, they don't have what it takes and I do. Let me dance my way through this battlefield full of landmines and miss every single one.
Yeah.
And get to the enemy trench.
Yeah, good luck.
It doesn't work. And it's ego that prevents people. It really is. Ego is the enemy because we think we're so strong that we can reach for these big goals immediately rather than actually building our way up to it. And I guess my promise to people at home is you have the capacity to do everything you've ever dreamt of and much, much more.
Yeah.
But to start with, you need to pick at what's around you and actually accessible and drop the ego.
Well, if you don't, you won't want it. And I think that's the finer point on what I was trying to say. It's not that there is no faking virtue. Shift is not virtue. You don't remove the distracting apps and then desire to not have them. You remove them first, then you suffer with all of the things that are not okay in your world and all of your insufficiencies, and then you get to go work on them until you get to the point that a lot of people feel when they use shift, where when their phone unshifts, they feel gross. When those apps come back, they feel gross. When they scroll on Twitter again, they go, this is what I was filling my brain with every single day. I don't want that anymore. That's the evolution of virtue. But you'll never want it. You'll never get there. So GLP-1s have the same recidivism rate that dieting does. You stop taking a GLP-1, having made no changes to your diet or lifestyle, you will gain back all of the weight plus more. That's the exact same recidivism rate for just regular caloric restriction. So the tool isn't the magic, it's the change of behavior. The point is that you leverage tools. I think I've said it before, like you turn off the water before you start drying off with the towel. And everyone's like, no, I can do it in the shower. I just have to go faster. You're a moron. Turn off the water, get out of the shower, dry off, then begin.
And I think for me, there's this sort of 3-step progression when it comes to freeing yourself from social media addiction. And I think we are addicted. The first stage is being at the mercy of what the programmers want you to feel. You're at the mercy of notifications, of banners that pop up in the corner of your app, and it's a perfect red sticker that you just really have to get to 0. That's probably because they designed it that way. You're at the mercy of your alarms going off, of the messages app, the mail sound. Everything's so satisfying and it just must be checked. You have this curious loop that gets opened and you must close it. You are not in control there in the slightest. And it's pretty easy to see. But most people don't because they're so caught up in the game of inbox 0, of Instagram 0, of WhatsApp 0, of messages 0. And when you're at that stage, you are completely helpless. You can get guided in whatever direction these people want you to go in, to earn money off of you, to help you contribute to the egregore that is. And that's a truly terrifying position to be in and observe friends in. The next step from that is realizing that this is happening to you and making the process of logging on, of checking your phone, a conscious thing. And that's incredibly painful. It really sucks. And at first, it might even result in more screen time because you're so worried about missing a message that's important. Everything feels like it's the end of the world. So you check WhatsApp even more. And that's been the case for me. I checked Instagram more often when I turned off my notifications because I was curious.
Yeah.
But you've made slight progress because you're more aware. You've made the subconscious conscious. And then the third step, which I think shift skips you to, is being conscious of everything going on, of what they want you to feel, and not only having your notifications off or whatever, but actually getting to a point where you've gotten so used to compartmentalizing your day, to not having social media in the morning when you wake up and your brain is most malleable and plastic. You open up a social media app again and you feel gross. It is a downgrade on reality, not an upgrade. And that's a flip that people need to make. At the moment, for a lot of us, including myself before Shift, it felt as though social media was an upgrade on reality. It was a tool to access this higher consciousness, which only is available online. Whereas now, when I go on social media, when I even load up Slack or WhatsApp, it is a burden.
Yeah.
It is a distraction from me being able to jump on a Lime scooter with my girlfriend and go across Washington, D.C. at 10 p.m. and explore. That is what fills me with the most joy. Conversations across a table from someone that have no devices distracting us. That is, for me, in my opinion, the purest form of living, of humanity, and of reality. It is an upgrade from those apps, and I feel freed from them.
What do you say to the person who hears you talk about that and goes, must be nice? Oh, it must be nice to just check out. I can't. I have. Like, do you think that it's an illusion?
I'm a social media creator.
Yeah, checkmate. Yeah.
And I do not need access to my social media all day.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the time we mistake busyness and this mandatory requirement for laziness, where actually we don't need these apps all day. We don't need to stay up late working. Actually, we're just lazy and procrastinated the whole day. So now we have to stay up late. That's the story of my life. Anyone will tell you, I'm a night owl. Well, actually, I'm not. I just really suck at getting up early and doing my work in the day because I procrastinate and I get distracted. Not anymore. And that's because I recognized that I was constantly making excuses, right?
Yeah.
And I think the best thing to do is just to show how this actually works, because I've kind of left people in suspense for a long time. If I look in front of me here, I have the Shift desktop app, and this is where everything runs from, not from your phone. Was that a conscious decision you made?
Yeah, if it was on the phone, you could remove it from the phone. While you are enrolled in Shift, there's nothing you can do from your phone to get it off. You curate the settings and everything from your computer. You had a really interesting schedule. You had like a very detailed, like well-curated schedule, you told me. What is it?
Well, this is definitely my favorite feature compared to anything else. I think the Shift feature by itself is powerful if you're like going out somewhere, but you can still unpause it. So what I prefer is the scheduling, which you cannot unpause. You get 1 3-minute grace period every single day.
Yeah.
So I have no input AMs, which means no social media from 5 a.m. until 11 a.m.
And what time do you wake up?
At the moment, 6 a.m., 7 a.m.
Okay. So it's blocked from the time you get up.
Yeah. Then I have lunch, no phone, from 12 p.m. until 12:30.
Yeah.
I have dinner, no phone, from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. And then I have no nighttime scrolling from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. So from 8 p.m. until 11 a.m., all social media is completely gone.
Wow.
And I'd say for me, the biggest thing has been the late night schedule.
Yeah.
That's when your willpower's at its lowest. That's when you're feeling like you could just do with a little bit of a scroll. The dinner no phone has really messed me up.
Wow. So,
well, it's 6 p.m. till 7 p.m. for an entire hour.
Yeah.
Which is when I've been checking my phone the most. Whereas the morning one is like a lot easier.
Sure.
So yeah, there's the schedules, and I want to kind of demonstrate this so that it's done, so we can talk about the ins and outs of Shift a bit more for people watching at home. The scheduling is the best part, and you've also got focus sessions, which is, I guess, like a smaller commitment than an entire schedule. So you can do 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes. And the big thing is you can't unshift during that period. And if I actually pull out my phone, because I don't have anything active right now, I can show people. If you look at my home screen here, you'll see that I've got a bunch of social media. We've got X, we've got Reddit, we've got Instagram, YouTube, which is controversial for you to shift. All I do here on my laptop is I press shift. And within seconds, all the apps from my phone disappear. And what I did when we had our first call and you were telling me to actually explore what shift is, I can go now to the App Store, and I went to the App Store to re-download the apps. And I noticed that the App Store isn't there. So pretty badass.
And if you try to search on your phone for like Instagram or YouTube, like they're actually off the phone. They're gone.
Where are they?
The data is still there, so they're not like reinstalling every time, but they're behind a brick wall that the user has no ability to penetrate from the phone. And if you were in a schedule, you couldn't do it from the computer either, but the unshift button, because you're not in a schedule now, works. And so if you click it, they'll all just pop right back.
Here we go, unshift. And all the apps reappear. And yeah, the sick thing is I don't have to log in again. Everything's there. I've got my Instagram open now, and I can scroll through if I need to. Yeah, it's insane. And something I've been really cautious of with my show is I've turned down a lot of money from different partners, and I've really disliked partnering with anyone because it's a big burden to promote a product. There are a lot of pressures there. And I'm just grateful that we have a partnership and that I get to use Shift, because all people need to look at is 6 days and 9 hours used in the last like 2 weeks. Time saved.
Yeah. Just because you have it open there too, and I don't know how you want to slice or dice this, but I think you were approached, I won't say who, by another porn blocking company.
Mm-hmm.
And we do porn blocking for free using the same sort of weapons grade filtration and protection for the user as well. And this is completely free. Anybody in the world can download and use this without paying for it. It's just sort of my goodwill offering to everybody. I figured the drug is free. The solution needs to be free. And so the same level of unbypassability for the app blocker also applies to porn.
Well, let's talk about the competitors. What is the problem with most screen time blockers out there?
I haven't found one that this doesn't apply to, and that is that the user can always go back on their goal from the thing that they're either paying for or it's free. And they'll often be lied to. The user will be lied to. I actually brought one of them because, and the reason I picked these guys is because on their website, they say that on strict mode, this is block. They say on strict mode, you can't bypass their protections. And so I bought it. I spent $29 or whatever it was, $35 after shipping, and got it. And so inside of this plastic card here is an NFC token, near field communication. And it's the same way that like you pay with Apple Pay on your phone. It's just like you tap the back of it.
Mm-hmm.
Brick works this way. Block, Bloom, they all work the exact same way. And so what you do is you go into the app and just, you see right here, it says strict mode. When on, you can't delete the app while blocked. So presumably words have meaning. And so if I just like click this here and it tells me to tap it, and I tap, my apps have been blocked and now they're all grayed out.
Mm-hmm.
So this is allegedly in strict mode right now, which means I shouldn't be able to delete this, which is true. If I try to do this and click remove from home screen, I did remove it from home screen, but what I didn't do was delete the app. So all I have to do is go into settings, screen time settings. And now my apps are back. So if it wasn't easy enough to just keep this in my pocket and tap it whenever I want, if I've left this at home thinking I've introduced friction into the problem, you can just bypass it from your settings. And every single app, NFC token or not, that uses the screen time API, which they all do, function exactly in the same way. We are the only one who separated the lock and the key and actually put the key in a timer. So when you're shifted, it's real. You're actually protected.
And it's crazy to just see that in action and see basically the scam that's been sold to people over the last few years in the name of self-improvement. The thing that really gets me is what you said on Matt Fradd's podcast, Pints with Aquinas. Are you solving the problem or are you renting the solution?
Yeah.
It's so obvious. Like if we're looking just at basic human principles here, we all run off of incentives. If you're subscribed to a porn blocker, it's a subscription. You haven't purchased it for life, right? Yeah. You are renting the solution.
Yeah. 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 So like, well, maybe the protection's really good. Like I think Canopy is decent. Covenant Eyes is not. Covenant Eyes is quite porous, unfortunately. But like, let's say you don't know how to get around Covenant Eyes in all of the way. And I'm not going to do to porn blockers what I am doing to app blockers, because I genuinely believe in stopping pornography consumption. So I'm not going to articulate the bypasses for the competitors. But the thing is they're out there and the kids know. The kids find them years before the parents do. And then they find out years after having paid for these porn blocker subscriptions that like, hey, mom, hey, dad, I was using XYZ method and still watching it. But even if they were good, you can just stop paying for them. And porn is a very individual problem. And so this isn't just for kids. This is for teenage men and teenage women all the way up to 70-year-olds who email me. It doesn't discriminate. It's also wrong to say that it's only a male problem. Women watch porn only slightly less than men. It's just talked about almost none.
If you could call out one porn blocker or problem with porn blockers, what would you say?
At first, I was a big fan of Quittr because I was thinking, like, these young guys they're part of the team. And then I went on their Instagram and saw that they were using like thirst traps and porn hooks as the first 3 to 5 seconds to like get you in. And then, and I thought that was shameful. I would say that I'm glad we have a moat selfishly as a business owner, especially in the age of AI. I'm glad that we have a moat. I'm glad we have a creative solution. To date, nobody has done what we've done. That won't be true forever. Software is becoming very easy to make. But it is a problem, especially with something like porn. It's different when you go online and you search up like the forum that Opal literally has, and people say, direct quote, "I feel like an idiot paying for this," because they spent $100 in like their yearly subscription and then immediately found a way around it. And like that post is still up. They still don't have a solution for that.
Well, if we go back to Quittr using porn hooks to get people in, what actually is the problem with that? I guess they would say they are selecting for the people that need their help the most by using those hooks. That's maybe the purpose. And it's engaging because it is what engages us the most, which is porn. Surely that's a good thing. Surely that's finding their right target user base by using porn hooks, and then they give them the solution.
You can, it's always immoral to do something immoral even for the sake of something good. I don't believe the ends justify the means. This is the principle of double effect. You can never do an evil for the sake of good. And I don't think it's necessary. I mean, like we've reached thousands and thousands and thousands of people with our free porn blocker by me just saying like, hey guys, I made a free porn blocker. And then I put a little bit of meta ad spend behind it. You can just do that. And then it's doubly duplicitous because it's some subscription built on the same tech that I just showed you that doesn't work. So what are you selling a guy? With just like a Duolingo like notification? Hey, don't watch porn today. You've hit 3 days. Here, pay me $29.99 or whatever their subscription is to be notified? To not watch porn? That you can then just delete this thing? Like, they don't stop it. Why are they? That's the definition of a grift. And I believe in capitalism. I'm making money selling an app blocker. I believe in the exchange of value for value. You just can't prey on men who are struggling, not give them a solution, hook them in with the vice that they're trying to shake. And then a couple days in, they just stop checking the app and eventually delete it. And it's like, well, what was that for? Why did I even get this thing?
Well, I think another thing for me with Shift that's been really powerful is the scheduling allows for you to just become the person you want to be. There's no more fluff, there's no more noise. And it's not about having a streak. Like, sure,
yeah,
I've got a certain amount of hours saved that comes up on the dashboard, and that fills me with joy, and I'm glad. And I've got my longest session there, and that makes me excited. That pumps me up, and I think that's great. But what you very specifically don't have is, well done, you've used Shift for these many days in a row.
Right.
And I think the dumbest analogies are the best analogies. You look at someone that brushes their teeth.
I like where you're going with this.
You don't go, oh, what's your toothbrushing streak? They just brush their fucking teeth.
Yeah.
If you're someone who doesn't watch porn,
right,
you just don't watch porn.
Right.
If you're someone that doesn't impulsively and excessively scroll on social media,
yeah,
you're just someone that doesn't do that. You don't know what your streak is because it's not in your mind.
Right.
Whereas what a lot of apps do is they will show you how long you've been going for, and it makes you chronically aware of how many days there have been since you were a sinner.
Well, the reason they do that is the exact same reason why the tech giants have architected their apps to be addictive. It's use time. And if you have a subscription, for example, Duolingo, and I bring up Duolingo because I believe it's one of the best examples of something pretending to do something and achieving nothing. It's the gamification and tokenization of nothing happening. You don't know the language after however many streaks. Like, you might be able to structure a sentence in a different language, but you're not fluent. You're not going to that country and walking around. You've developed nothing. So that's why these other apps tokenize that sort of thing. And ironically, like, the dopamine feedback loop from Shift is derived from life because we sort of recede into the background. You set up that schedule. You don't open the Shift desktop app every day and like look at it because it's just on autopilot. What you do is you go out and ride Lime scooters with your girlfriend, and you're freed from the Slack notifications and the compulsive checking of YouTube. And I'm curious if you've experienced this. I realized that there couldn't be freedom from any compulsive behavior, pornography, or doom scrolling if there was ever the opportunity to utilize it. The only freedom, true inner peace, came from the certainty that it was gone. But if it relied on you, if that question mark was still in your head, am I going to check the app? Am I going to watch porn today? That would haunt you all day.
Yeah, I had a conversation with a Benedictine monk in a church.
Let's go. Awesome.
And it was one of the best conversations I've ever had.
Okay.
I still meet up with him whenever I'm in London to get mentoring just for my life.
Amazing.
So he's this endless source of wisdom.
Yeah.
And one of the key components of the Benedictine tradition and the monastic life is severing the link between desire and action. So you have the desire, and maybe if you're a Christian, I'm not, it's that fleshly desire to do something, whether it's eat that cookie in your kitchen, whether it's watch the porn. That is a lower order desire that your animalistic nature is giving to you. It's not who you are. It doesn't define you, but it's going to pop up. You can't change that.
Yeah.
And the idealist says, no, I'm going to get to a point when I don't even experience that feeling. I'm here to tell you, not even monks disregard that feeling. They still feel it.
Yeah.
They just know what to do next.
Yeah.
And that's been one of the biggest things for me now as a 21-year-old navigating adult life. It's been the realization that you can't control what you feel at first. It's how you act on it. And eventually over time, you can put yourself into a position where you feel those feelings less. But especially when you're starting out trying to put down a bad habit, a vice, pick up virtue, you're going to feel emotions, and it's what you do with them next. So the Benedictine monks sever the link between desire and action. How do you do that? Well, instead of using your ego to say, I'm just not going to eat the cookies in my cupboard, you make sure you don't have any cookies in your cupboard.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
You have to drive 10 minutes to the nearest supermarket. And by the time you drive there, you're probably so high on life from the view or the music that you listened to or the conversation you had that you don't really need the cookies.
Yeah.
And I think it's the exact same principle here with anything, with shift. It's that you tell yourself you have the strongest amount of willpower to overcome something. But that's in these moments, right?
Yeah.
When we're feeling strong, when we're caffeinated, when we're in a good position. We don't know what we're going to feel like when we're actually yearning for that thing. And in fact, we're going to convince ourselves on every level that we need that thing, that we just need to send that one Instagram message, that we just need to have that one scroll to stay in the loop because it's important. That's the whole point. You're not going to ever overcome that feeling of something being needed because your body is trying to constantly convince you it is needed. Instead, you just need to fucking get rid of it. You can't let yourself have the opportunity to rationalize and make up whether it's good or bad for you because your body's going to convince you that it's good for you every time.
Well, all of this morally weighted language presupposes that we are for something. Because the pushback on this could very easily be, well, I like it. And who are you to tell me otherwise? I mean, women are annoying. They're hard to understand. They cost a lot of money. They want things. They ask things of you. They will expect me to die to myself. Porn does none of that. I will choose the porn. Thank you. And so, like, who are you? Who am I really to say, hey, man, you shouldn't do that. There's more. And like, what do you tell somebody? Like your friends who are still in the cave and don't see a problem with it. Like, do you try to encourage them that there's more to life? And like, how do you convince them that more is real and not just preference?
I think the big thing is just that comparison, yeah, it's the thief of joy, but it also gives us clarity on a lot if used appropriately. If you contrast my life now with someone else's, you can pretty quickly see the amount of freedom that I have.
Yeah.
And that's how I try and approach it with people that I know, is not by condemning them, because I think our generation are victims to a system that has force-fed them junk food repeatedly, that makes them suicidal, that makes them have body dysmorphia, that detracts from their life. We're victims. That doesn't mean we're powerless. We're powerful and we have the opportunity to change. It's harder than ever, but we can still do it. And what really annoyed me when I went on Jeremy Vine and had a clip that went pretty big of me calling out the people on my panel, was that they were older. They were 60 years old, 50 years old, and like 40 years old. And they pointed the blame finger at us.
Yeah.
Saying, it's your fault.
Yeah.
Why don't you just go out and explore the nice parks that we have? Oh, well, this is a political issue. It's the right wing and all their bigotry. Oh, it's the left wing, whatever. It's like, no, this is a problem far beyond politics and parks. We have institutionalized the corruption of the human spirit.
Yeah.
And people profit the most in the world off of that. Who are the people that have the biggest valuations for their companies right now? It's tech companies. And that fills me with dread, and it makes me fucking angry.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing that's happened to me since my life changed with me going on national TV and it blowing up online was that I've been angrier. I've had a lot more calm in my life because I take breaks away from social media feeds and the news feed, which also gets blocked by Shift, by the way, which is awesome. But when I think about these issues and I try to navigate them, I'm a lot angrier.
Yeah.
Because it's made it so apparent to me, not that people are just ignorant, and this is kind of a side effect. It's that they're selfish, they're lazy, they're complacent, and they don't want to do the right thing because it's harder. We spoke the other day on the phone and you were saying that you see this as the next crusade. The 10th crusade that's not going to be fought in Constantinople or Jerusalem, but in our minds. I completely agree. And in my opinion, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but in my opinion, I think people should be pretty fucking pissed.
Yeah, Aquinas says a man who has reason to be angry and isn't sins. So I would say that you've grown in holiness. Yeah. And the anger is a woundedness because we were owed love and care and we weren't shown it. And when we were our most vulnerable, when we were the most vulnerable, we saw things that scarred us. Viewing pornography as a young child is sexual assault. And it has lasting damage on our ability to love, to pair bond. And the same thing is true with the effects of social media. And there were people that we were entrusted to, and there were systems that we were entrusted to. It would have been better if we were poor. It would have been better if we were in a war-torn country. It would have been better. There's so many other evils that are lesser than the evils that we have experienced internally. The mangling of our orienting reflexes. If you're starving, that's a very clear type of suffering. Poverty, starvation, war. Gosh, I'm going to get just obliterated for comparing being a Zoomer and the effects of porn with war-torn countries. But hopefully the listener can understand the comparison here or the nuance. And the mass casualty event of this software. And to anybody of an older generation who critiques the younger generations for being or not being a certain way, I built a whole business while starting a family to do everything in my power to save the 11-year-old version of myself. What did they do? What are they doing? Are they financing these operations? Not me. Anyone. Are they writing letters? At the very least, are they having open and honest and clear communication with the younger generation about priorities and the way that they see things, and relating to them in such a way that they could have influence to compel them to pursue things other than what they see on their phones, instead of just finger wagging. Or are they just finger wagging?
Yeah, one of the biggest pushbacks I've had when calling out the older generations for their shortcomings in looking after Gen Z and protecting us from social media is, you're just a victim. You're just a pathetic victim that does nothing but complain. Put your phone down, go and touch grass. It's not that hard. I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. I've given up dream careers, and I've gone bankrupt 4 times to build a podcast trying to find the answer to all the suffering that we're going through in Gen Z. And after 93 episodes published, 110 probably recorded, I still struggle. I struggle with social media. I struggle with focus. I struggle with being present. I struggle with the consequences of being exposed to porn when I was about 9 years old and watching it consistently up until now. And I've spoken to all the lead experts in the world that understand the effects of this. What fucking chance does someone who hasn't been to 35 countries, who hasn't experienced the difference between the West and other countries, that hasn't spoken to world-leading experts, that doesn't have a podcast built on self-development have? But like, maybe it's just me. Maybe I am just a victim and there's just no helping me. I'm open to that, but so far from the hardship that I've been through this podcast, the money I've had to make, first of all, and then invest into this, I would say I'm probably pretty far from a victim.
Well, 2 things can be true simultaneously. God is known to transmute suffering and evil into good. And I think it is the godliness in us, our charity, our compassion, that does that. And that's why I have antipathy toward something like Quittr. Like, hey, let me dangle this sin in front of you. But the most innocent was crucified by the most guilty, and through that solved it all. And I think that what you and I are doing, and anyone who strives to do something similar, is weave straw into gold. And it is exhilarating. It's the most fulfilling work that I've done. I would imagine you've told me what your sleep schedule is and the lack of drugs and alcohol that you consume to do what you're doing. Like that is a man with a purpose. That is a man with electricity in his veins. That's what it's like to know what you're made for and to do it. That's when your will is aligned with the effects of your will. That's what you get. If you put in those reps, life starts to take on a whole different experience. And I think all of that can be true while objectively having been victimized.
Yeah, I think that's the key distinction I need to make. And I get so wrapped up in these word games that people impose on me, and maybe I just shouldn't play them. But I said, I'm not a victim. What I should have said is, I am a victim, but I don't have the victim mentality.
Yes.
And I think that's the case for a lot of Gen Z. Of course, there's a minority that I will complain about on camera that don't know how good they have it. And they need to pucker up. But for the vast majority of us, we are trying. I think we are the best generation that has ever lived, in my biased opinion. I think we're going to change the world the most out of anyone that has ever lived. And I think we are the last hope. We are the end of the alphabet. We are the last hope.
Yeah.
And I think we have everything it takes. We just need a helping hand from those that are older than us, that maybe do have more wisdom, that have more capital, property, things to help us with. Because the key thing here about paying it forward as an older person is we're going to be the ones changing your nappies just like you changed ours one day. It's not necessarily us being selfish, asking for help. It's also for your sake.
Right.
And I think people forget that a lot of the time. They think that paying it forward, investing in the future, it's inherently altruistic and that's the limit of it, when actually it's not.
Yeah.
It can be a little more selfish, and that's fine. If you want to have a good future and you're not in Gen Z, you're a little bit older, I think you do need to start looking after us more.
So many thoughts on that. I think there's going to be a rebound effect with the Dunbar thing where Gen Z, I think, is going to bend the stick backward, to use the Aristotelian phrase. We're going to collapse back in on ourselves, and that emphasis on community and on the tight-knit social groups geographically, I think the emphasis is going to be on geography. I think there's going to be people spending money to live close together, even if it means they don't get to live in the city of their dreams or do the job that they want to do. And I think it's going to happen in our generation. And whatever the inverse of a Faustian bargain would be, the ultimatum.
What's that?
Faust, the deal with the devil. So I would say this is sort of like the deal with God. The ultimatum from our generation to those above is you claim to want your kids close. You claim to want close families and good societies and a certain behavior. So you have a choice. You can invest in those people who are trying to make that a reality. That will come at the cost of your preferences, because you didn't do that 25 years ago. You didn't do that 45 years ago. So today, you might have to empty your Roth IRA to move across the country to be with the kids who, because you sent them off to college, they now live in a different state and they made friends over there and they built a life over there. And now they're having grandkids over there. Do you want to be with them? Do you want to see them once a week, once every 5 years? Or do you want to be part of their life? You might have to drive Uber. Are you willing to do that? We are. I was a dishwasher. I was a landscaper. I worked on a dairy farm. I've done anything and everything as I was finding my groove to get here. They want to talk about pulling themselves up by, we should pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. If there was a toilet in my company, I would clean it if it meant keeping the lights on. I will do every job in this company. I've seen you do that already. You're like, I will make sure that this comes to fruition. That's the ultimatum that the older generation, I think, is going to be facing. And I will say this, and I'm typically not a doomer. The help is not coming. They won't take the bargain.
What makes you say that?
Some will, but we're talking less than 1% of 1%. The vast, vast majority will not, because the whatever wounds to the intellect and to the will that take place in a short period of time get deeper and calcified over decades. So the decisions the older generations made, the selfish decisions, which is what they were, for their preferences over what was good for us, weren't small deals. And that wounds the intellect and that wounds the will. It darkens your intellect and it weakens your will. And you don't just snap back from that without a huge catharsis, a huge metanoia, like an actual 180-degree repentance. And changing your life like that gets harder every passing year, let alone decade, especially when you have the sunk cost fallacy of I own a home I have a retirement account. I have tenure. I have all of these things. The ask is just too big. It's not happening. You and I are not going to get, and the other 50,000 crusaders that I hope to inspire are not going to get the help. And that's okay. And I think it's just to be angry, and it must immediately be met with forgiveness, or you will perpetuate the same cycle in a different way, in a worse way. Like if we're rightly castigating them for not being sufficiently loving and charitable, moving that bitterness into the future and not taking care of them when they are undeserving is the wrong answer. Just build. And it is a war. It is the last crusade. It's the fight for, what's funny is like the battles for the Holy Lands were very obvious. And this is the most subtle and the most precious temple. It's like your soul. It's the most precious temple. And to think that you're going to reclaim it without a nonviolent, not breaking any laws, bloody war, metaphorically, is delusional. This will take everything you have. And so what I hope to do, and I think what you've done so wonderfully with this podcast, is just give people a vision into what life can and should be like. And then that intoxication that's what's going to pull you forward into that action. As soon as you get just a whisper of like, oh, you're telling me life can be like this. All right, I'll do whatever it takes to fight for that. I mean, it's not going to get much worse. I can't afford a home. I don't have any friends. I think about killing myself. I might have to drive Uber. My college degree didn't do anything. I'm not as pretty as all these people that I see online. Can't go down. Might as well go up. See what you can build.
Where should those people start when they try to build?
Make your bed. Start by stopping the things that you know hurt you and that you are willing to stop. And start doing the things that you know are good for you that you're willing to do. And that is a very, very, very small amount of things, I would imagine.
Arthur Brooks just published this book called The Meaning of Your Life. And in it, he quotes these different psychologists that have studied what meaning is. And I don't know if science is the best realm to discover what true meaning is, but it's certainly helpful. There are certain tools that you can derive from that. And they came up with this formula for what meaning is. So meaning equals coherence plus purpose plus significance. So if we break that down here.
That's great.
Coherence, it's the full understanding of how the events in your life fit together.
Yeah.
It makes sense what you're doing right now. And that is caused by something that you did before, and it's going to cause something in the future. Well, what happens when you get a newsfeed mainlined into your system 24/7 that repels all of that and says, no, this thing is more important, and this is what caused everything that's happening? And then you get an ad that's trying to get you to medicate your problems, because actually the problem wasn't that you made bad decisions or that you were imposed on by some tech oligarchs. It's actually that you're just depressed or anxious or have ADHD or are bipolar or insert whatever buzzword. So let's medicate you instead, right? And then the final thing with coherence is you see this desire for coherence manifest in the conspiracy theories that are relentless online. What is a conspiracy theory? I mean, sometimes it's the truth, but a lot of the time it's a search for coherence. You are confused by the events of your life, of why you've ended up in such a horrible situation where you're anxious, you don't want to go outside because you hate the look of your body, of your face. You can't forge a connection, you're too scared to approach someone in a bar. So you blame something else that just makes sense. It just fits everything together. Well, it was this group of people it was this event that caused all my misery, and I'm going to hone in on that. And that is literally the most pervasive thing on the internet at the moment. That is how big political commentators especially build their careers.
Yep.
It's off the back of people desperate for coherence. So that's the first problem. Out of this 3-part meaning formula, our coherence is completely gone.
Yeah.
That sucks. So that's a third. Then there's purpose. Well, what is purpose? It's the existence of goals and direction in your life that you and I have. And we're very lucky to have that. But a lot of people, they're confused because, again, there's no blueprint for their life. There is no roadmap when you need one. And that roadmap can change. You can have evolving goals, and you will because you're young. If you're listening to this podcast, probably if you're in Gen Z, you still need to have a map so that you can know where you are in relation to the goal. Otherwise, you're just walking around aimlessly. Okay, well, what happens when you get 20 different gurus on your feed every day telling you this is the purpose of your life and this is what you should be going towards? The map gets thrown out. And if we zoom out a step further here and take this a level deeper, there is no map for dealing with that onslaught online. There is no modern day blueprint for life, like there might have been in different traditions, in different scripture. I'm sure I'm not Christian again or religious, but I'm sure that the Christian doctrine will still be able to deal with some of the technological things going on, if not all of them. But it's not phrased, thou shalt not scroll on the iPhone, right? So it's tough. It's really tough for people to have a roadmap. And I like to say Gen Z aren't lazy, they're lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that comes from the endless mainlining of different worldviews, different cultures that is cool. Like I want to see different cultures, I want to see the world, but I feel confused. I wonder if there's a better partner out there for me. Maybe the attributes that I've chosen aren't good enough. Well, I know that I love this person and I want to spend the rest of my life with them, but could there be even better?
Right.
People often describe modern love as this revolving door where you're in and you're out because you look for better options. So that's the second part of meaning. We're 2/3 of the way through, and so far, every single level of meaning has been imposed on. And then the third is significance. It's this feeling of inherent value. Yeah. But more importantly, it's not just this inherent value in relation to yourself, but in relation to others.
Yeah.
You want to feel like you have significance in the world and that you influence those who you love. What happens when you're exposed to the top 0.1% of influencers who, by the way, don't have anywhere near as much influence as you would think because their views are fake, their comments are fake, and the things they've achieved are fake a lot of the time? What happens when you're exposed to them and you're sat there at 18 years old, having not really achieved very much, having not a very big stack of proof, because you're 18, man, and you just finished school? You're going to feel insignificant. So that's 3 out of 3. 3 strikes and you're out. No meaning, no significance, no coherence, no purpose. That is the current landscape that we're trying to navigate as Gen Z. And you look at something like meaning, every single level of meaning has been imposed on.
Yeah.
I can't say much, but just I'm returning to that feeling of anger again.
Which is, I believe, the first step toward theology for our generation. Because if I may, if your atheism or agnosticism were bulletproof, it would actually result in more of a despair, Nietzschean despair. And a meaningful percentage of this generation is not and will not make it out of that when we've been disoriented and they killed God. You cash your chips in because it's a game and I don't want to play a game. I either want it to be real or the pain's not worth it. So I need to know, and I need to know soon, that this is real, that the stakes are real, and that when it gets really hard again, or perhaps continues to be hard, I have a reason to keep going. And this is where I push back against atheism and agnosticism in a non-academic, non-philosophical way, just an appeal to the human heart. And I believe everything that I believe is buttressed by logic, but if you just want to play the game of feelings for a moment, search your feelings, Anakin. Dig real deep. Why would somebody get angry instead of despair? Why are we itching to stop scrolling? Why has shame followed use of porn basically every time you've done so? There's some things we can't reduce past, and they're pointing somewhere. And I would argue that you worship the same God that I do in pieces. I've been thinking about this particular point for a while, actually, maybe the last 4 or 5 days. Because God is not truthful. He is truth. And truth is not a set of math equations or facts. The Christian professes, the Catholic professes that it's a person with whom you can have a relationship with. So the search for truth terminates in a relationship. But prior to the relationship, the courtship is, in my opinion, what you're doing is worship. And it's the same worship that I did while I was an atheist for 7 years. Because what does worship look like? It's obsession. It's adoration. It's tenacity. I can't live without this thing. In fact, I'm going to build an entire company on it. Or if you're like me, I'm going to make 7 feature-length documentaries. Refusing to do anything but seek out and find the truth. That's worship. In fact, you might even go so far as to say that that's belief, because if you believe something, you will sacrifice for it. You might go bankrupt 4 times. You might lose sleep over it. You might suffer. You might lose friends. So I think that for the people, and as to why some people get this and other people don't, I don't know. It's above my pay grade. But for those that worship truth, for those that have a romantic affection for truth, who feel a lot of insecurity and where the colors are brighter because things make more sense, they're the ones who are going to make it out of the cave. I don't know where that fits in the second two, but that's definitely the first one in terms of coherence. And going back to like the three things you must believe to end up in this group and not this group. Existence exists. It is knowable. And it is internally consistent. It is one thing and it is not a different thing. And you can know that and you can navigate through that. If you're willing to die for that, then you will end up building toward that. And that's what will help you get out of bed in the morning. And maybe you make your bed. Maybe you don't. I don't think I've ever made my bed, but you'll start to do behaviors that will result in you having greater affection for yourself.
If we keep on pursuing this line of inquiry for solutions for young people here, what would you say to a young guy, maybe 11 years old, who's suffering from a porn addiction right now? What should he do?
God have mercy. Well, if they have the technical ability to operate a phone or an iPad or something and pursue porn, then they can probably navigate the internet well enough to find the free porn blocker. I would say put that on your phone immediately, that we have, completely free. Can't get around it, won't be able to watch porn. It's a great start. I don't know what somebody's family situation would be like. I think a lot of times the reason people don't talk about that is one of two things. Either the parents themselves, like if it's an 11-year-old, their parents are probably millennial, and statistically they're watching porn. And if they're not, there's definitely, or regardless of if they are, if they're not, there's going to be a deep amount of shame surrounding that, and that's going to prevent action. So it's tough because it depends on the family situation. Like if they have people in their life, older siblings, I think older siblings can be a good safe haven, because I think it's very unlikely for an older sibling to want their younger sibling to suffer in the same way. That's probably a charitable view. Maybe I'm sure you've heard all the stories of older siblings introducing the younger siblings to porn. So I know that happens too. But if you can talk to your parents about it and say, I don't want this. Can you help me?
Yeah. I think if we keep on going, from my perspective, the big thing is related to that desire versus action point. You need to increase friction. And even if we just step away from shift for a second and we speak more broadly here, a few things I've done recently. I changed my iPhone password from Face ID initially a few years ago to a 6-digit code to now a 20-digit password of different words and characters. And it means that the friction is so high every time I open my phone, especially if I'm driving. I mistyped the password 3 times. I'm like, do you know what? Scrap this.
I'm going to die.
It wasn't even worth it.
Yeah.
So you can take that into any realm. It could be in porn, increasing the friction through porn blockers or through having your devices outside of your room at night. Another thing that I've done is I've disabled banners on my apps.
Okay.
Banners are so annoying and I want to get them to 0 every single time.
Yeah.
So you can just remove them if you go into the settings so it doesn't pop up on your iPhone. Hey, you've got 13 new messages on Instagram. That's a really easy, low-hanging fruit thing to start. And then thirdly, I just live on Do Not Disturb, which can be pretty frustrating for people trying to call me.
Yeah.
But again, it means that there's more friction and there's more intentionality about my phone use. I now finally feel like it's a tool rather than part of me. And it's so weird. Like, I'm sure you would have experienced this. Having a broken phone or whatever that means that you can't use your phone for a couple of days. And you go outside in the real world and you're terrified. You feel naked and afraid.
Yeah.
How am I going to get around? How do I know where to go? How am I going to pay? It's actually like scary.
Yeah.
And what's scarier is the fact that I feel that way just because I don't have a device for 2 days. I recently had my phone stop working on me when I was in America. And I was walking around the streets of Washington, D.C. with no phone. And I was like, I'm helpless. I feel like I'm about to be hunted by some animal. That's not how it should be.
Yeah, that's why the car was a bad idea. I didn't know until recently that it was Eisenhower in 54, I want to say. Somebody can fact check me on that. That was so impressed with the German Autobahn and the infrastructure there during the war that he commissioned the creation of the interstate system, which we all take for granted. And coming from England, which is like the size of Michigan where I grew up, it's a bit different where you guys can like get from one side of the country to the other relatively efficiently. But I think it was terrible that we could do this now. The airplane, the car, because now we do live in a place where in the absence of the technology, you will be consumed. You'll be lost. I think it's terrible. The answer, though, isn't LARPing your way out of it. It's not getting rid of your phone. Like, yeah, in DC, you will get harmed. I'm glad you're safe. Like, you don't know how to make soap or how to raise a chicken or sew a shirt. That's not the answer. But you can, with something like Shift, remove all of the things that do hurt you and then keep Uber and Maps and so on. So that is, I think the answer is, in the creed that we live by at the company is Chesterton's. It is only because some machines have put the world wrong that we can use some machinery to put the world right, basically, in summary.
Yeah, that's something that annoys me about this new wave of people that are going ban social media for under 16s, which I'm open to, but with certain caveats. They usually go down this slippery slope of also suggesting we should just get rid of the phones full stop for young people to get rid of our social media. And I'm like, that's a luxury belief.
Yep.
You're sheltered from the consequences of doing that because you're a Hollywood actor that's made it and has $20 million in your bank account. Of course, you can then go and use a Nokia brick for all of your business because you have a cleaner, you have a chauffeur, you have an assistant that manages all your admin for you using their devices anyway. It's actually not realistic for anyone else.
Yeah.
What do you think towards the discourse around this kind of Luddite approach of just getting rid of your phone? Is it a luxury belief?
Yep. And you said something earlier about the middle class going away. I firmly believe that. And so if you elect to get rid of your phone, you enter a place worse than poverty because you not only don't have the tools to make money, you don't have the skills to survive without the technology. That's what I was saying. Like, you can't make soap. You don't know what soap is. In the absence of Costco, what are you going to do?
Mm-hmm.
If you can't text your coworker to reschedule your shift, what are you going to do? This isn't your way out. So it's absolutely a luxury belief. And unfortunately, the same generation who's saying, take responsibility and stop scrolling, their solution is, well, we'll just ban the phones. You mean the tools that are going to allow us to break free from the permanent underclass before the floor gives out? I'll be keeping those, thank you. I will be using them, and I will use them in a way that they don't use me, so that my kids don't have to go through what you put us through. That's how I will be using these tools, thank you. But don't just take them from us. I mean, there's more young kids becoming millionaires now than like in history, let alone making any kind of money. They're learning more through internet commerce and social media. They're learning more about human psychology and business and relationships and having hard conversations and politics than any MBA at any university will ever teach them. So don't take that away from them, you morons. And before we ban social media, which I'm not opposed to, first of all, it won't work. VPNs exist.
I think 60% of the kids in Australia following the social media ban, they still access social media.
Just like when they ban porn, you just use a VPN. So you need a better technical solution, which is what Shift does. But before that, it's just parents having the types of conversations with their children that they need to be having. Before you outsource this to the government, to the tech companies, have you tried talking to your child? If that intimidates you, well, you have a couple decades of work to do before you go rely on nanny state to fix that problem. And try to compress those decades into months if you can, because your children are being abused right now. If taking the iPad or the phone away results in a nuclear holocaust in your home, there is your project. Make your bed. Millennial, Gen X, Boomer,
Screen tards.
There's your project. Figure out how you can have a relationship with your child. Because what influence is, if we're talking about influencers and social media influencers, it's just being compelling in a relationship. What a colossal failure you must have been as a parent if these streamers on YouTube have greater influence over your child than you. How many missed opportunities for friendship, for charity, for fun, for discipline, for respect, for conversations did you miss? And how much outsourcing did you do to an iPad? You made your bed. And to the younger generations who are parents, you have an ultimatum as well. You have 20 to 30 years fewer calcification cycles. You have less sunk cost than their parents. So I make the same offer to you. How do you want the next 50 years of your life to look?
I was thinking about this before we were rolling. Shift is actually too good of a partner for the show. If I had a different exclusive sponsor that was the only person I worked with and they were a little more distant, it would be more palatable for my audience because they'd be like, oh yeah, it's kind of a sponsorship, whatever. Whereas with this, I'm so vehemently plugging it because I actually use it all day that it can come across as fake. And I'm struggling how to navigate that because I have so much passion for this and it can come across as, he's being bought out. That's why he's always posting about Shift. It's like, no. I'm actually posting stuff that you haven't asked me to post because I care about this product and I see what it's done for me. So that's something I need to work out over the next few months.
Let me know if you figure it out. I mean, we get called grifters. They're like, make Shift free. I'm like, well, the porn blocker's free. We won't have a free porn blocker if we make the other part free. I don't know what you want from us. Like, I don't know how you think the business works. I sort of have an internal quip. It's $149 and you're welcome. I just saved your life. You're welcome. And actually for your viewers, it's not $149. It's cheaper.
Yeah. Well, they can check it out in the show notes. But it feels like we've been talking for 30 minutes. We're actually running out of time.
Wow.
So I want to finish on my behalf with reading this out, and then I want to give the floor to you to pick up on anything you think we missed. The big thing for me is the algorithm that we're all at the mercy of. It gives us this feeling of safety because it separates us from boredom. And boredom is the scariest thing you can possibly experience in the 21st century. People would rather electrocute themselves with a button in a room when told to sit in there for 30 minutes with no other stimulation. They press the fucking button. People say that a fear of public speaking supersedes a fear of death nowadays. I bet if boredom was an option on there and you could actually quantify how scared people would be, they would be more scared of boredom than death. The algorithm gives us safety from that boredom. It gives us protection. And as a result, we pay the small cost of losing every good part of ourselves instead. And I think a big problem as well as ego is this fear of trying something else. What if this actually works and I'm detached from everything I'm comfortable with and everything I've grown up with? That's what it was for me, right? And I felt skeptical using Shift because I feel like I'm missing out. I still feel like I'm missing out after 2 weeks because I haven't quite gotten used to this new lifestyle yet, if I'm honest. But then when I returned to Instagram, I realized none of these messages were pertinent. None of them were time sensitive.
Yeah.
I can still, in my allotted time span, go through message requests of people telling me their stories and giving feedback on the show, and I respond to it and I have time to do that. But no one would have died. So I think the biggest problem here is just people actually being brave enough to dip a toe into the unknown. And they can dip a toe. They don't have to go full send. They don't have to have the same schedule that I have. I think you just need to start and experience it and feel how wonderful it is to not be at the mercy of this egregore that we're all feeding into. Benjamin Franklin says, "Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety." And that's everything from my part with this conversation. I want to ask you if you feel like we've missed anything.
A little over a month ago, it was time to put our daughter down, and so my wife was going to go upstairs and put her to sleep, and my phone and computer were like 10 feet away, and I'm sitting in the chair in our living room, and as a joke, I said to my wife, what if I just sat here the whole time? Like, you went upstairs, put the baby to sleep, came back down, and I just like hadn't moved. She's like, that'd be crazy. So she walks upstairs, and I like do one of these, like literally lean forward in my chair to get up and grab my phone. And I was like, and I sat there for 25 minutes. And it was awesome. It's great. It was a little bit drug-like. It was in that it was an altered state, because I hadn't had an in-between moment for a really long time, because my in-between moments were filled with 30 to 90 seconds of scrolling as I was moving to my next moment. And I got 25 minutes. And I felt like I discovered a superpower. I don't think everybody's going to have that experience. I think a lot of people, their mind is a dangerous city, shouldn't go walking alone at night there. But guess what? There's your project. And this is probably where the conversation terminates in terms of next steps. I built the best tool, get it, skip ahead, rip the Band-Aid off, and show up in a space that you're very uncomfortable in. Maybe grab a pen and paper and start listing all the reasons why you can't sit there for 25 minutes. What conversations are you not having? What things are broken? There's the project for the next year of your life, until you can get to a point where when your phone shifts, you're relieved and you can sit there and experience 25 minutes of enjoyment.
I'm going to say something very out of character here for the podcast, but the last 2 weeks with my scheduling, I've had a chance to read way more. I've listened to way more podcasts when I've been driving and when I've been at home about Aristotle, about Plato, about things that I'm interested in that I didn't get time to do before. And more than anything else, I really feel like I've existed in the real world, and that's a good feeling. I've even been eating better. And if you're a self-development bro in my audience that focuses on being dialed in, that wants to do great things with your life, I implore you to do them. But I'm going to run you pussies over every single fucking time, because I don't have that impulsive behavior encroaching on my life. So if you think you can outwork someone that doesn't have these constant notifications literally throwing their focus, Johann Hari writes about this in Stolen Focus. It takes on average 23 minutes and 15 seconds to get into a deep focused state. But one Snapchat notification, bam, you're thrown off. You're going to spend all day trying to get to that 23 minutes and 15 seconds, and you're never going to do it. That's why our attention span is 8 seconds now. You're going to get ran over, turned around and molested 3 times by the guy that doesn't have distractions on his phone for periods of the day and can actually work.
Yeah.
There's just no comparison there.
No.
And even though it sucks to know that people have that attention span, and I'm trying to raise awareness around it, hence this podcast, hence others, it feels great for me.
Thinning out the herd.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the same thing's true in the dating scene. Men and women who don't watch porn and don't compare themselves to others are going to find a worthwhile person, begin dating, end up married, and have better sex than everybody else. Data bears that out. So I just made it as easy as a push of a button. Do you want the magic button? Push the magic button.
Nicholas, where can people find more of your work? Where can they find Shift?
In your bio. In your bio. At Shift Your Phone on Instagram. Is really where we put in the most of the work here, and
take the challenge.
Or get steamrolled by Elliot.